So let's talk about the sponsorship message, which is becoming your greatest possible self, and the 21-day challenge. So if you're an entrepreneur or a high achiever and you feel stuck, overwhelmed, you feel like you're not performing at the level that you want to, you know that there's more greatness within you, and you want to step up your results in life, you want to become your greatest possible self, the 21-day challenge is going to reignite your purpose. You'll get clear on that. You'll break it down into bite-sized steps, and at the end of 21 days, you will accomplish your biggest goal, or at least made a ton of progress on it, okay? We're going to dial in your daily habits and routines and make sure that you're empowered to reignite your self-belief and passion so you succeed like never before. Super excited to talk to you about it. If you're ready to go on your 21-day challenge journey, send me a message, chris@beyourgps.com, or find me on Facebook and message me there. Looking forward to talking to you about that. Next is going to be the iTunes review of the week. It's by a great podcast, and a great podcast says, powerful, practical, and authentic. I met Chris at a live event and knew he had a knack for attracting great people to his show. Because he is authentic and high energy himself, that's the kind of people he invites to his show. The result is some of the best practical and applicable advice you can get from people who have done the work themselves and can share what they've learned to shorten the learning curve for yourself. This is a great podcast. I really love the episode with Lyra Kay because I could so relate to the kinds of mistakes that coaches make in building their business. 100%. Thank you so much for that feedback and that review. I appreciate you. And if you want to give us a review, go to beyourgps.com/iTunes. And also you can search for Becoming Your Greatest Possible Self on iTunes and or on Facebook. You can give us a review there. So thanks in advance for doing that. Now, this next woman, Lisa, is going to come on. She's going to rock the house. There's going to be so much gold, so much wisdom, and so much like adversity that just got overcome because this woman is a fighter. She's unstoppable, and she is also tapped into her gifts and her purpose and knows she's meant for so much bigger than what she's gone through. So really stick around for this entire interview because I know there's going to be so much greatness. Get a pen and a paper ready. Be ready to write down the notes because she's going to share the gold with you, okay? So let's talk about her intro and be able to bring her on, okay? Lisa Tuccio is passionate about helping people be authentic, her purpose and community of clear living, and being a creator of life on the other side of disease. For far too long, she was ashamed about parts of herself and didn't own her story. She was a medical professional by trade and an entrepreneur in spirit. Having two life-changing illnesses altered what Lisa thought of herself and how she envisioned her future. By growing in her own personal development, Lisa has a unique perspective on how to create change. Activating her health and wellness gave Lisa the jumpstart to tackle the other obstacles and find tools that created that shift within herself, and it can happen for you too. And we're absolutely blessed to have her here on the show with us today. Lisa, are you ready to rock the house?
I am ready to rock and roll.
Let's do it. I love your energy. We're doing it. You're now live on Becoming Your Greatest Possible Self. Thank you so much for coming on today. You are a superstar, Lisa. Thanks for being here, okay? We appreciate you taking the time to be here, share your wisdom and your message and your journey with us, okay? So we're going to dive right into the theme of the day, which is facing your fears. So Lisa, how has this concept of facing your fears made a difference for you? What does that mean for you, facing your fears?
Yeah, that is really the crux of a lot of things because it's the thread. If I look back on my life, it's the thread that weaves everything together. So it can start from childhood or wherever it starts, and where you start noticing that you are beginning to alter what you do or what you think your greatness is because you're holding back. Because all of a sudden these thoughts start creeping in, maybe I'm not good enough or things like that. So fears is something you really start battling from a young childhood. And some of us can, sail through at some level. And some of us have other hurdles in front of us that challenge us to push us deeper and deeper to really see the other side of what that can look like.
Wow.
So I view that as a huge thread throughout my life.
Wow, that's amazing. And I love how you're so what's the word I'm looking, not accepting, but like you get that it's there, you get that it's a thread in your life, and that it motivates you, it inspires you, it empowers you to grow and become more than you were before. Because like we're born as these kind of like weak, wimpy little babies, and through life we begin to understand how powerful we are, how creative we can be, how brilliant we can be, how much we can shine our light and really make a difference for others. And you've definitely stepped up into that role and into that position, Lisa. So I really love it. So thanks for sharing your perspective on fear and really facing your fears. And I want to dive into who you are for people who are meeting you or connecting with you. They want to build a relationship with you. Tell us a little bit more about yourself and what you stand for and what your clients come to you for.
Well, so back when I was first coming out of high school and things like that, I'd moved around quite a bit throughout my life. So I grew up in Connecticut, moved to Philly. Now I'm here in Delaware, and and so those things about myself, were great. And then I started noticing I just wasn't loving who I was. I didn't really have a purpose and stuff like that. I realized I was doing things for other people, especially my family. So I ended up becoming a nurse. When I started, my mom started me in nursing homes, that kind of stuff.
Wow.
And so it was not something I saw within myself, but it was just a natural progression because it's what I knew. It's what I was comfortable with, that comfortability. And that's what began my journey as a nurse. And I did that for a very long time. It was the career that I spent for the next 15 years of my life. But along the way of doing that career, that's when things started to happen. Going out on my own, marrying someone right out of high school, making a few mistakes, those types of things. And that kind of was like, I viewed myself as fairly naive to the world, to the people around me. Maybe the tools in my toolbox, I didn't have a lot of them, a worldview about people and things like that. So I attribute that to a lot of naiveness.
Yeah. Well, I can share from my perspective. I feel like I was really naive at first too, and that was also and still is also what attracts people to me, because I'm so like positive, hopeful, and like focusing on that on the possibility, really seeing the good in people no matter what. I think it takes discernment, and that's what we get to learn, is how do we discern who to really believe in and what to focus that positive, inspirational energy on. So I think it's a double-edged sword, and it's all about learning how to use it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I, like those tools in my toolbox, I don't think I had that discernment for that. And plus I partied a lot, and I did a lot of things that kind of lowered those inhibitions to make good decisions.
Right.
And so that's what led me to, some things started happening. I was divorced. I was still grinding out my career. And that's when I started, not really, just some depression sinking in, low self-esteem of self and that kind of stuff, fear of, moving on beyond what I thought I was capable of doing. And so I became really, so what ended up happening was I just kind of flipped through relationships. And that's when the first thing happened to me is I became infected with the AIDS virus. That was one of the biggest hurdle that had happened to me. Yeah. It was something that I didn't know I had right away. It was in 1993 that I had become infected. I didn't find out until the person that infected me had died.
Wow.
My life, by that point, I had really started getting things together in my life. Wow. I quit the partying scene. I was looking forward to, doing some things and getting myself moving forward. And then here it was, the first really big slap in the face. Yeah. So when I was diagnosed, stuff like that, I really just sunk. It was the first thing that kind of I allowed something outside of me, this disease, this huge stigma, rampant thing outside of myself really dictate how I was going to move forward in my life. Because I viewed my life at that point as of the life of the dying, that I wasn't going to have much of a future.
Yeah, it's like
So,
you're on the
yeah,
downhill now, quote unquote. So like, might as well not plan anything big because you never know what, like, I
right,
could be gone any day. And I think
right.
that's really powerful that you went through that, and you can know what kind of like suffering or despair that might bring to your life. And I'm sure you're going to be sharing about how, you use that to leverage and support other people and keep
Right.
going. I think it's really important that people recognize when we're given that kind of news, how most people, it like really brings us down. It really has us feel like, man, why am I even here? Why even keep living anymore?
Exactly. And part of that was, so like the previous guest, she talked about money matters.
Yeah.
And, so my life of money thinking was, why save? It shaped how I had my ongoing relationships with my parents. They didn't know, was I going to tell them, my siblings, my workplace. So it kind of was something that kind of filtered out into how I was going to behave. And the only coping skill at that time I had was, all right, I'm just not going to tell anybody.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to act as if,
Man.
and then off goes the rest of my life, to where I was completely separated from myself and to who I wanted to be. They weren't ever going to come together in that type of mindset.
Right.
But when I start looking back over that time frame, you can see, and I think a lot of people with chronic disease can see, that maybe there were glimmers of hope. Maybe there were things that happened that I can look back on that were actually things that kept me moving forward. There was something there. And when I remember, the first story that I remember is about a man when I first got my results. He was sitting downstairs. Here I am on Broad Street, Philadelphia, sitting, predominantly Black community. There wasn't people like me walking through the doors. And I was sitting there, and he looked across at me and he said, if you got this, you're going to be okay. And you're going to live. And that was my first glimmer of hope. That was something that I could hold on to. Somebody I didn't expect it, like my little guardian angel, that I could, draw a resource from within my heart, and not just what I was thinking up here in my head.
Why do you think you leveraged that so much? Like, did you feel like you had kind of put yourself through enough like turmoil and internal conflict that you're like, as soon as you heard that, that was like that one spark that you needed? And maybe even before that, you probably heard similar words. Maybe you, if you heard similar words, right, then you wouldn't have responded to them as powerfully. So why do you think this one was the one that really empowered you?
Well, nobody knew,
Right.
With that stigma, I didn't tell anybody. I had one friend that was with me. So it's not like, you have a cancer and you can call on your tribe,
Right.
and things like that. So it had a little bit of a different stigma, and that's kind of what's led me to where I am today. But that was the only real grasp I had. That was the only real thing that I had, a glimmer of hope from somebody outside of, my friend that was with me. That was it. And so it was maybe out of desperation, maybe out of, I wanted to believe something bigger than me,
Yeah.
that I wanted that hope, and so I naturally gravitated to something like that.
Wow, that's
It
powerful.
was an easy way to gravitate to something that was inspirational, or, something that was going to pull me rather than pain pushing me,
Yeah, that's
And
powerful.
so that's how a lot of people are driven, is by pain, right? And pain pushes them until you're no longer in pain.
Yeah.
And so I needed something to pull me towards.
Wow, that's
And
powerful.
so
So
he was
pain pushes people, and pleasure or inspiration or hope has the power to pull us, right? Like
correct.
pain or the fear of pain or the fear of regret or different stuff
Yes.
like that can drive us forward, and it's more of like a pushing versus there's a pulling and an easier way to do it if we have a source of inspiration. I did want to ask one other question about you going through this experience. For someone else who feels like they're not able to share like what they're going through, like what would you say to those people now that you've gone through this?
Yeah. Well, at that time, what I tell people is that even if it's a stranger or someone you
Mm,
don't know, like that guy that gave me that little bit of hope, we have to form community.
mm,
And part of what I do is form community. And part of what I did was reach out to places that I needed resources, right?
mhm,
And so I found places that I would be comfortable that accepted me. So for me, the Catholic Charities was really a big place. They were doing a lot of work back then to where I could be with other people that were like-minded.
mm,
So it's just like somebody that goes to AA or things like that, where they find community in similar conditions.
yeah.
So people, if you find that community, I just have fantastic memories of people and their stories and journeys, supporting each other, because sometimes we're dealing with heavy stuff.
Right.
Sometimes we're dealing with death and our imminent end. And how do we do that if we don't have the structure of family or
Mhm.
other things that can help us? So community was a big source, and I did a lot of that, from individual therapy to forming my own tribe.
Wow.
um, and sometimes that can be the best source, because they don't have any necessarily investment in you other than your wellness.
Hmm.
And I wanted people to be invested in my wellness, so I sought that out. You have to be able to do that. So today's day and age, where we have Facebook and
So many. Yeah.
and all these different things that we can find community and share that and be vulnerable and um, and and express things without the fear of being judged,
Hmm.
or that what we're saying is wrong. Um, and there's a lot of that. There's a lot with people outside that don't experience pain or haven't experienced something dramatic, that may not be able to relate to that. And so, we can definitely, find places where there's relatability, support, unconditional acceptance to where you are in the process,
Hmm.
you
Powerful.
know.
Powerful. So that's what you would give to people, look for the resources, look for the community, look for the places of support where you can go to feel like you're not alone. Feel like you don't have
Yeah.
to carry that burden on your own. Feel like you don't have to keep it deep down inside because
Right.
nobody can ever find out. Find the people who can listen, even if it's a stranger, even if it's like a support group, whatever that is for you. And if anyone's having any questions, I highly recommend you reach out to Lisa. She'll be sharing how you can do that at the end of the interview, especially. And if you're ever feeling alone, this is someone who's felt alone and has gone through those challenges and that pain of feeling like nobody can understand her, and she's come out on the other side of it. So she's a
Mhm.
powerful, powerful foundation, like a rock to lean on, so to speak, if you're feeling like that. So Lisa, you went through this time period. You got that glimmer of hope, that thing that you could hold on to. You started forming community around you. Tell us what else happened along that journey.
Well, along that journey, then some things I really wanted to happen happened. Uh, my family was going to be a very emotional time.
Hmm.
And in the beginning, I couldn't handle their emotions, to be honest. It was like that would be too overwhelming. So I really had to be at a place to where I could take in their grief as
Hmm.
well as not make it my own,
Right.
and be there for them. Um, there was a time period I needed to allow myself to grieve, and go through those processes. And then I could take a little bit at a time. And that's what I did.
Hmm.
I started out with the people that my siblings, who I felt most comfortable with telling. And I did one at a time, so that I could be present and that I could, hear them and their emotion, and show them how they needed to educate themselves.
Yeah.
I learned early on that I can't be the sole resource for them, for
Hmm.
their questions. And I have a good story about that. And I also was able to then eventually make it to where I was going to tell my parents. Now, everything doesn't always turn out the way you want them to. Maybe things don't always work out the way you think they should. I had been disowned from my family for a long time prior to us reconnecting.
Wow.
And so when that happened, my mother reached out more than my father was able to, which was okay.
Yeah.
But she was able to come down, and we were able to have that conversation. And it's what I've wanted, you know. And so there was a lot of relief in that. There's a lot of relief in being able to finally get to a place where we can coexist, you know, and understand each other in a way that's healthy.
Yeah. Who did you have to become to be able to have that conversation?
Well, I had to have already felt more confident about myself. I already had to develop my own inner strength about what this disease is, be educated myself about what it is and what it isn't, and how I could share that with them. So I had to know that, and I had to have gone through that community of people that were encouraging me to not give in to, you know, our lowest desires, to be depressed and those things. I needed to change some of that thinking in my mind about, I didn't know early on where this was going to lead to. Today we have medications that are fantastic, you know, but back then we weren't so sure. And so I really had to be self-aware, confident, and be in a place to where no matter what the outcome was, I was going to do my part, and whatever resulted, I could be okay with.
Wow.
So that took time. So it wasn't something I ran to. My initial instinct can be sometimes I want to tell everybody everything, blurb it all out there. You know, but I had to withhold that and really go through the process.
And that's challenging. That's challenging too, because your only intention is to share, to, you know, educate, to keep people included, to feel like you don't have to carry this burden on your own. And like on the same token, it's like how you share it and when you share it and in what medium and in what, you know, context. It's so powerful to understand those factors in how we approach sharing things, because something as simple as a piece of information, depending on the context, can like make or break how it's received.
That's right.
Yeah.
And it's not just limited to my disease. I mean, anybody that discovers they have diabetes or they discover they have cancers or whatever that is, people can internalize illness as feeling less than complete, less than whole. And if they view it in that way, it's not a good time necessarily to just run around and share it all. Maybe it takes a little self-reflection, a little bit of understanding, and then we can invite the community into our lives. Wow. Now, I don't recommend you take as long as I took, you know, to come to this. But, you know, I do think that at some point we can start inviting people in a little bit at a time and get to a place to where, hey, you know, whatever the result is, wherever my health goes, I'm going to take some action steps to make sure that I can live the best possible life today, live where my feet are. And the language in my head started changing for I am disabled. When I first started going to doing things in the entrepreneurial world, I became more isolated. I was losing my vision. And I was just like, you know, one more thing to make me more isolated and alone. But I said, you know, let me do something about this. And I want to become an entrepreneur. I really want to start a business. And I'm going to find a way to do that within the constraints of my limitations. And I went to my first seminar to where I was going to listen to a motivational speaker, and the woman walked outside and I wanted to grab her attention. She had written a book, I had read it, and I went over to her and I said, how am I going to do this? You know, my guide dog's with me. I'm blind, I'm disabled, and stuff like that. And she just looked at me and said, you need to eliminate all those words from your vocabulary.
Wow.
And she walked away. And it took me a minute, to think about that. But it was true. It was really true. I had to stop viewing myself as those things. And I had to view myself to where I want to go, because I'm still alive.
Right.
And I was shorting myself the benefits of what that could be, what my true potential could be, and how many people I could really help. I just wanted to live in that.
Yeah. So with separating, the dis-ease or the disability or the thing, the condition from yourself. So it's not like I am my condition, rather I had or have a condition, or I manage a condition. I don't know what the specific languaging is, but I know that like how you language it, how you relate to it determines its impact on your life. So, really focusing on that will make a difference for our audience. Is that what you're saying in this, like being able to articulate it in a different way so that you're not
Correct.
Identity tied to it?
Correct.
Yeah.
So if I walk around saying I am AIDS, I am blindness, then that's all people will see of me.
Yeah.
So, but what I am is powerful. I am beautiful. I am, an entrepreneur. I am not my disease. I am, superwoman.
Yes.
And when I shift my thoughts into those I am, then it really impacts what I believe about me, what I believe about my potential, what I believe about my future self of where I can go. Because a person in gratitude can't be negative, and depressed. If you live in gratitude, then you're bound to be have a better view of yourself. And that's where we're trying to create that shift in mindset of disease, is beyond the self-pity, beyond the I'm only going to have a month to live. How can I make that month the greatest month? How can I engage people in a way that shows them I love them? How can I open myself up in my vulnerability to be in a place where I can be most service to other people? And shifting out of the self-pity, it's just a mindset. Sometimes my body fails me. Sometimes it does. And I've taken action to help change that, so that I can be more physically powerful and mentally powerful. And that carries me through those hard times. When I am down, that I can notice it, I can tell myself, today's not a good day, but that does not define me.
That's powerful. That's powerful,
It does
Lisa.
not define me.
That's powerful.
What
So,
defines me is my works.
yes. What you say defines you is what defines you. Like what defines me is my stand for people, to make a difference, to impact people's lives one at a time, being there, showing up. And I really loved how you said, how can I? That's such a powerful question. How can I maximize the time that I do have? How can I maximize my identity of recognizing my gifts and my values and the things that are still good and true and, right about me and that are God-given, universe-given, whatever we want to call it, that I've been blessed with? And how do I not get tied up with the identity of that? How do I say that's something I deal with? That's something that's just a part of my life, and I'm taking action steps. I love how you keep saying that, because it's like, hey, I have this thing, I deal with this thing, and I'm taking action steps, and I'm empowered, and I'm, in action. I'm in momentum. I am in the energy of I'm bigger than that. That's just a side effect. It's just a thing that is in my life, and I deal with it powerfully. And here's who I really am. Here's what I really stand for. And I think it's cool that you've come to that point where you recognize that you are defined by your words and who you say you are.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And it's an ongoing journey.
Totally.
And so I just did it. So it's not like, it's a one and done thing. It's a progression of spirit, your connection to spirit, whatever that is, your connection to purpose. And I just did a breakthrough weekend this past weekend
Ooh,
where I walked on fire, I split
awesome.
cords,
Awesome.
and you probably know the leader of that, but it was an internal journey. And so, I'm always looking to push myself. So the greatest thing that happened is, I can't see very well. So when I got up to the fire pit that I was going to walk across, it's about 10 feet long or something, and you get yourself ready to go, you're in that center, you're
Mm-hmm.
feeling your center. And the person at the end goes, "Can you see me?" And I'm like, "No, I can't see you, but I'm going."
Wow.
And I couldn't see where the end was, but I was just going to go. So even without knowing the end, how far, that I was going to trust that I could make it to the other side. And that's what I did. I went across until I fell into somebody's arms,
Wow.
and so that just symbolizes the power that we have within each and every person.
Hmm.
It is definitely not unique to me. We all have that potential to move through to the other side of something. Fear keeps us from doing that, like we talked about earlier. Fear blocks us from, there's things that blocks us from the sunlight of the spirit, of moving through something to get to the other side. But if you do it often enough, and you break through and pass through often enough, you'll begin to trust that it will happen, that result will happen for you when you do that. So I really, really, really enjoyed doing those types of things that really proved to me over and over again of our greatness.
Wow, that's so amazing. And
Yeah.
I love how we have so many opportunities, again, talking about, resources, Facebook groups, different stuff like that. There's so many opportunities to demonstrate how powerful we are, on a daily basis. Having tough conversations, going to seminars and workshops, doing courageous things that, most people, if they weren't trained or if they weren't prepared, would say, no way, I'm walking across these coals. I'm not doing it. I can't do it. My mind, like their mind would stop them before it even gave them a shot, and I think that one of the biggest things about this conversation that I'm getting is like how we show up is all in our mind. It's all in, like whatever we're dealing with, it's all in our mind, whether we're, quote unquote disease free or we have a disease, we have a disability or whatever it might be. Like it's still all in our mind, how we show up and the level that we perform, the risks that we take, how high we think and believe that we can go. And I think it's just really empowering for you to share like, hey, I used to be trapped by my mind. I used to be a victim of my mind, and I
Yep.
thought I had to keep it a secret, and I thought I had to be this certain person because nobody would accept me. Nobody would, want to stay connected with me or be my friend or whatever, I thought I would be rejected or not welcome in different places. And like you got
Right.
to see that that's not true. And if the people are doing those things, then like they're not your people. And there's people out there who do that stuff, and like that's just the world we live in. There's people who believe certain things, and that's not who we're committed to being around. We want to be around people who are accepting, who are loving, who are non-judgmental as much as possible, and who really just embrace people as they are, because we're all given a set of cards, and it like we get to choose how we show up in those cards. So to judge someone for the type of cards that they were dealt is just totally, egotistical.
It is.
Yeah.
And if I was to come before people and your audience and say, here's the solutions, read, empower your mindset, listen to podcasts like this great one, listen to TEDx. Now, I'm not a big reader, but I do find sources. I read affirmations. I exercise daily. If I was to come to you and say, how can we move ourselves from A to B? These are some of the things I'd be telling us to do. And that is the same. It's the same for me as it is for somebody without disease. We can still all live in the solution of, get a mentor, somebody that's going to guide you and give you some new tools to use, that you may not have known about. And so community was one of those places that I got tools. Mentorships were places I got tools. Listening to other people who have this. I wish I could remember this guy's name, but he did a TEDx talk, and he had both of his legs got blown off, and he became a physician, and he worked in the hospice setting, and he lives through bringing, healing to people on their way out, right? And it was just so powerful, and how he lives, in that solution. And so, so if we can create that shift for people, that you can find that comfort and create that shift within us to go from scarcity to this abundance feeling and our potential. It's amazing wherever you are in life that you can really experience such amazing benefits and solutions that are common to most of us.
Yeah. So if there was a piece of advice or wisdom you could have given to, let's say, your childhood self, like a belief to implant in yourself, so that like when you had these circumstances happen to you, you would have been, like, oh, it's just the circumstances, like I'll keep going and living my life. What do you think that belief would be that would really have made the difference for you along the journey?
I think it would be surrounded about feeling that that self-empowerment, that I am okay where I am. I don't know if we could change life circumstances, but I would have wanted to have been more empowered in myself and my mindset, of how I viewed myself. I didn't have a lot of self-esteem or self-worth, and I wish I had more of that. And it's a shame. I always think it's a shame when people don't have that, and I was one of those people, and I wished that for myself more so, that I would have more of that.
Well, that's why you're doing what you're doing today. Really what that just created for me is like the one thing that you're out to do, which is empower people in their self-belief. If you could change one thing or implant yourself with one belief when you're growing up, like when it counts most, so to speak, then you would say, hey, you are empowered and your situations and circumstances don't define you. Like you are worthy, you are enough, and everything's going to be okay. So like really master that as your overall message, because that's like the one thing that would have made the difference for you back then. So that there's people who are going through similar things that you are, or who will one day, so you get to be that stand and that voice that empowers them now for as long as you keep continuing to do this. Like that is your message, that is your voice that you get to be for them, because that's the one thing that you wish you had when you were younger.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I am enough. If I could have had that tattooed on my head, I would have. Or somewhere to remember.
Right.
From back then.
Yeah.
But luckily, these circumstances and where I am today is really kind of shifted, and I have a lot of, for the people that were in my life that have, given me the truth, and really guided me and pointed me in the right directions to go. No one can do it for me. But when they give you the right tools and point you in the right direction, I can choose to accept that and use it in my life to empower myself to do what comes natural. And I've always been someone that loved to help people. That's always been part of my nature, I think, even as a nurse and things like that.
Right.
It was something I loved to do. So, that's where I like to be, that resource, to give people new tools, point them in the direction, know they're enough, and that disease doesn't define them as they may think of, at the beginning. Yeah.
So I also want to know what has been like the biggest wisdom or lesson that you've learned in your entrepreneurial journey that has like really made a difference for you? Because it could be the same thing, you could say the same thing, or it could be something else. I'm just curious what that was for you.
Well, for me, it was really, for me, it really started with, feeling sick and stuff like that all the time. It does play on you day to day. And the biggest thing, another shift that occurred is when I really started taking my health seriously. I wasn't doing enough. It's another little action area that kind of had to be infused into my belief system that if I was to become stronger physically by doing a few things that helped me, like, doing more exercise or being consistent in what I was doing. And I'm not a gym person. I'm not someone, I don't think you need to be a rock star unless you want to be in the gym, but whatever suits you. But I had to really take control of those things, the foods that I fed myself, the activity of my body, and being consistent in that, and doing things that kind of gave me that energy, recovery, and things that I needed to have a foundation that I could springboard off of. Because when you feel better, you do better. And I think that just kind of continues to perpetuate in my life. The more that I feel better and do things that create action in my health world, the more I feel capable of doing, being an entrepreneur. I mean, that takes a lot of time, a lot of energy. And so I have to really look at how I structure my day, being selfish in that with meditation and exercise, putting myself and my body first before I start giving. And then when I can, then I can be all in. Once my body says yes, and I'm doing those things, and that was a big shift for me because I struggled in that area for a long time. And then I could be like, wow, now I can be fully present to people and show them what I've done, and hopefully that helps them.
Yeah. Wow, that's amazing. And I know for you personally, you're building this business. It's more so online, right? It's like you have the freedom to do it wherever you want, whenever you want. In that pursuit, like what would you say is something that you won't compromise on in terms of building the business and also like having a great life? Like where do you find that balance? How do you know how hard to work for yourself and how much time to like take to self-care and self-nurture? How do you know that?
Yeah. Well, every day I have to do something that involves self-care. And so I am in a calendar.
Right.
My life is in a calendar. My appointments, my things like that in my business. I love being an entrepreneur from home, social media stuff. It's kind of exciting for me and that kind of stuff. But I really have to put it in my calendar that my morning routine stays my morning routine, no matter what's happening in life. And with my partner, I negotiate that. I would negotiate what my time is and what I need to do personally in my relationship and what I need to do for myself. And if I find that I start compromising those activities that keep me well, then I will pay the price down the road for it. If I miss my exercise, I miss doing what I do for my health. If I miss my own personal time where I need downtime, then I suffer, and then I don't have much to offer when I'm not in my best shape.
Yeah.
So I do that by using a calendar to structure that time in.
That's powerful. Yeah. You can tell a lot by someone based on what's in their calendar, what their priorities are, what's important to them. And I know for me, I do my best to schedule the most important things first. Like I especially running a 12-hour marathon, interviewing up to 9 guests every week. Like I do all these pre-interview calls. Like I have to have a balanced calendar and masterful scheduling ability to be able to manage all these moving parts. And I think people who are playing a small game, probably in life, so to speak, they're not playing very big out to impact lots of people, then they can usually get away with not having a calendar, not being that powerful with their time. And for the people who are out to impact large amounts of lives and very deeply, Those you definitely have to. You have to become masterful with the calendar. You have to be masterful with your boundaries, with saying yes to only the things that are heck yes, and if it's not,
Yep.
then say heck no. Because like our time is our energy is everything. Like where we spend it, where we invest it, that's like everything. It really
Oh
shows
yeah.
what we value and what's important to us.
Absolutely. I employ help where I need that.
Yeah.
I ask for help where I would be better served,
Mm.
by certain things by other people. I'll look to those things to help me do what I do best.
Yeah.
So I need to be where that is the most of the time, and then farm out some things that I don't do as well,
Right.
or just for time, purposes and things like that, and being purposeful in that.
Yeah.
So that's really served me well to
It's awesome.
be in charge of those things.
Yeah, and it really shows that you value your time and your energy. I think one thing we were talking about earlier is like a feeling of, well, what's the use? Like I don't know how much time I have, or what difference can I make, or whatever excuse people are making up. Being masterful with our time and our calendar shows, hey, I don't know what's happening. I don't know what's coming in the future. I'm taking action steps and I'm doing my best. And the one thing that I can control is how I invest my time, at least to the ability of planning it out on a daily and weekly basis. Sure, life is going to happen. Emergencies are going to happen. Things are going to come up. It might not go as planned. And the first step to saying I value myself, I value my time, my energy, is to make that declaration and take those actions of scheduling. So I so agree with that, Lisa. It's powerful.
And you don't, and even if you're not, you don't have a gazillion things going on, it's a good habit just to start practicing early on
Hmm.
so that you grow into it as your business or your life or things kind of take off.
Hmm.
And I am so grateful to have a good mentor in that area who really shows me, you know, how we can be most efficient
Yeah.
in what we're doing and where we need to spend time
Yeah.
and what's going to serve us
Yeah.
down the road. So I'm really grateful for that.
Powerful. I love it. So, Lisa, we're beginning to come to the close of this interview, and we want to know, what's the one piece of wisdom or guidance that you feel our audience really needs to hear? We may have covered already, maybe something fresh that you want to share, but what's the one thing that you really want our audience to receive and to integrate and take action on from this interview?
Well, if no one's told you they loved you today, I
Hmm.
am going to tell you I love you.
Mm.
And you know, I've I think that people need to hear that more. I think we need to be a little more connected when we kind of get into our own little camps. But I think we really need to be a little more connected. And
Mm.
you are enough. And whatever you do, you know, whether it's you're going on an entrepreneurial journey or you're just being the best version of you at home and your family, then do that and do that well. So
Amazing. Amazing, Lisa. Thank you so much for sharing. And I know our audience is super inspired by your story. And there's people out there who may be suffering with their own stuff, may want guidance, may want someone who to lean on, someone, an ear to speak into, to share, to release the pressure and the anxiety, the tension, the stress, all of it from what they may have been going through. And I know that you are someone who can support them in that journey. So how can they stay connected with you, Lisa? How can they get in contact with you?
well, the best way to get in contact with me is two ways. Either on Facebook through my group called Clear Living,
Mm.
and there we will have a wonderful community that we're launching and getting involved with a lot of people to contribute and add information and value
Mm.
to our lives and tools that we need. And also, you can find me at lisajtuccio.com. That is my website. And there, if you want to talk one on one, they can just fill out that, and I'll get a message, and we can connect and see what's going on. I love talking and sharing with people, and that's what we do best.
Awesome. Awesome, Lisa. You're a superstar. Seriously, thank you for just continually stepping up to whatever life throws at you, whatever life places in front of you, whatever life places in your lap as a gift that may look like a shiny, sparkly gift or may look like something other than a gift. Whatever the case may be, I really hear that you take life as the best you possibly can every day, especially these days, because you're just out to empower people. You're out to live your message and mission and share with people. So you guys heard it. Everyone who's listening, go to the website, lisajtuccio.com. That's LISAJTUCCIO.com, and you can get in contact with her there, or you can find her group Clear Living and make sure that you connect with her and see all the value in that community and people who are living life on the other side of disease. So Lisa, thanks so much for coming on. You rock it, and I'm so excited to see your growth and the impact that you create moving forward, because you are a star, and I'm excited to see you keep rising. Okay?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So much.
You're welcome.
Bye-bye.
You did amazing. We'll see you soon. Okay?
See you soon. Thank you.
Awesome. Take care.